Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be graced by the class given by His Grace Sridevi Mataji from Mayapur. And she's going to be speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, verse 20. And the chapter is entitled, The Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. Really powerful chapter. The title sounds like, wow, better get it straight. If not, we're going to, probably get a slap on our face. So let's hear nectar from Sridevi Mataji's lips, and let's dive in. And it's all yours, Mother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear Ansuya. Please accept my humble obeisances, and all the devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our Gurudevs. Thank you so much for joining in this call. It's very enlivening to have devotees from all over the world, as Anasuya Mataji says. And it's an honor, it's a great privilege to be with all of you. And I humbly request for your blessings so that I may be able to do justice to the service that Guru Maharaj has given me. So please pray for me. Thank you, Anasuya. Yes, so we are on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, very powerful canto, very powerful chapter. As Anasuya said, let's dive right in. So it's Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So the verse is here. I hope everyone can see. It goes like this. Bile batoru krama vikraman ye nashrinvata karnapute narasya jiva sati dadhuri ke vasuta nachopagayati urugaya gathaha. So word for word, maybe we'll just do the translation. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Very powerful verse and purport, so listen up. One who has not listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes, and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Purport. Devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. It is the transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the Lord, and when one can render service to the Lord with the help of all the senses. As such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic as long as they are employed only in sense gratification. The purified senses are engaged not in sense gratification, but in service of the Lord in toto. The Lord is the supreme with all senses, and the servitor, who is part and parcel of the Lord, also has the same senses. Service to the Lord is the completely purified use of the senses as described in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord imparted instructions with full senses, and Arjuna received them with full senses, and thus there was a perfect exchange of sensible and logical understanding between the master and the disciple. Spiritual understanding is nothing like an electrical charge from the master to the disciple, as foolishly claimed by some propaganda mongers. Everything is full of sense and logic, and the exchange of views between the master and disciple is possible only when the reception is submissive and real. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should receive the teaching of Lord Chaitanya with intellect and full senses, so that one can logically understand the great mission. In the impure state of a living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. If the ear is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about him from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, certainly the holes of the ear will be filled with some rubbish. Therefore, the messages of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached all over the world very loudly. That is the duty of a pure devotee who has actually heard about them from the perfect sources. Many want to speak something to others, but because they are not trained to speak on the subject matter of Vedic wisdom, they are all speaking nonsense, and people are receiving them with no sense. There are hundreds and thousands of sources for distributing mundane news of the world, and people of the world are also receiving it. Similarly, the people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord, and the devotee of the Lord must speak loudly so that they can hear. The frogs croak loudly, with the result that they invite the snakes to eat them. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns and not for croaking like frogs. The word asati used in this verse is also significant. Asati means a woman who has become a prostitute. A prostitute has no reputation for good womanly qualities. Similarly, the tongue, which is given to the human being for chanting the Vedic hymns, will be considered a prostitute when engaged in chanting some mundane nonsense. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Putale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Chandramauli Swami Niti Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavati Paschatya Desha Tarini. So such a beautiful verse and purport where the importance of hearing about the Lord is being stressed over here as the only means by which one can attain the perfection of the human form of life. In fact, the 9 processes of devotional service begins with what? Hearing. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Swaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. And it begins with what? With hearing. Simply hearing about the Lord is the very first step in spiritual life. So therefore, these messages must be preached very loudly, as Srila Prabhupada says, all over the world, which is being deafened with mundane music, literature, nonsense propaganda, politics, this thing, that thing. So much rubbish world is being bombarded with all useless, mundane information, which does not enlighten people about the goal of the human form of life. The human form of the life is a very rare opportunity to get out of the cycle of birth and death and must be fully utilized for this purpose. If we miss this chance in the human form of life, then we are going to again come back into the cycle of repeated birth and death. Humans at least should understand who am I? Who is God? What is my relationship with him? What am I supposed to do in this form of life? We are not born cats, dogs, reptiles, lizards, cockroaches, ants. We have taken birth in the human form of life. This is the greatest and the best opportunity. In fact, Srila Prabhupada writes, this is the loophole to get out of the cycle of birth and death. And we must utilize this opportunity to purify our lives by hearing about the Lord. In fact, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, when he was told about Abhay Babu, as he was called by his godbrothers, about Srila Prabhupada, they recommended him for initiation. At that time, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said, yes, I have noted him. He likes to hear. Because Srila Prabhupada would very attentively hear his Guru Maharaj's lectures, so many lectures. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the Leelamrita, says in the Leelamrita, quoted by Satswarup Maharaj, that many times I did not understand what my Guru Maharaj was speaking, but I would always hear very attentively. I was very eager to hear the transcendental subject matters. And his Guru Maharaj noted that and then empowered him, and the rest is history. Similarly, the process of hearing is stressed by Lord Chaitanya, who says that everything begins with hearing, and all the 9 processes of devotional service, they are based on hearing. Because only after hearing, then we can speak about the Lord. As Parikshit Maharaj, what does he ask Shukadev Goswami? He says, when he was cursed to die in 7 days' time, he says, please, O great learned sage, you are a saintly personage who has come here to bless me. Please tell me what is the way of perfection for all beings, especially for one who is about to die. Please tell me what I should remember, what I should hear about, what I should chant, what I should worship, and what I should not do. I'm paraphrasing. It's so beautiful. Let me look at the exact words for you. Yeah, please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me, because you're the spiritual master of great saints and devotees. I'm therefore begging you to show me the way of perfection for all persons, especially for one who's about to die. And Shukadev Goswami becomes so pleased with this wonderful question by whom? By Parikshit Maharaj. And he says, your question is glorious because it's beneficial to all kinds of people, and this is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendentalists. So by hearing these subject matters, what happens? Natural love for Krishna awakens. So he goes on to say, the answer to your question, O king, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead. And the highest perfection of life is to remember the personality of Godhead at the time of death. Ante Narayana Smriti. So for us to remember the Lord at the time of death, it means we have to be hearing the Lord constantly throughout our life. Otherwise, it's not possible suddenly to hear about the Lord at the time of death, because we would have not developed the attraction to hearing of it. So how to develop this Vasudeva Katha Ruchi? Shushusho Shraddhadhanasya. That is Canto 1, chapter 2, verse 16 or 17, I believe. Very beautiful verse. If you can pull that up for us, my dear Anasuya. It's a very important verse, because it tells about how important it is to hear about the Lord. And how will we develop this attraction for hearing? By serving the great souls.
Which canto again, Sridevi?
Canto 1, chapter 2, verse number 16. Actually, all those verses are very important, 16 to 20. I will request you to read them out. But first, let's focus on this one. Verse number 16, it says, Shushrusho Shraddhadhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirthana Nishevana. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, that means pure devotees of the Lord, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So this is the secret. How to develop attraction to hearing about Krishna. It is to serve the great soul, the pure devotees of the Lord, the pure, perfected spiritual beings are spiritual masters. In fact, Krishna says, one who says he is my devotee, he is not my devotee. But one who is a devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee, because he understands how dear my pure servant is to me, and he is serving him, and therefore his service becomes pleasing to me. So from these great souls, one can achieve the highest perfection of life. I will give you another example. Who was Narad Muni? He was just a simple maid's son. She was just a simple, very humble, simple lady. And she had this little boy, Narad Muni, but she served great souls. When 4 months of Chaturmasya happens in India, 4 months of heavy rains, the saintly persons do not travel at that time. They settle down in a place, and they have their bhajan kutir, and they hear about, glorify, worship, remember the Supreme Lord. They constantly engaged simply in absorbing themselves in remembering, speaking about, glorifying, singing, worshipping the Supreme Lord. And this maid was coming there to assist in the household work. And her little son, Narad Muni, came along to help her. And he was helping to clear the plates and everything. And he was hearing what was going on at the same time. And he took permission from those great souls to take the remnants of the prasadam that becomes Mahaprasad. And when they gave the permission, he ate those remnants and became purified. At the same time, he was hearing constantly their glorification of the Lord. And because of their presence, he became so purified and he became a pure devotee. He became Narad Muni. This is the power of hearing the messages of the Lord. It is so important, my dear spirit souls, for us to give daily attendance to hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nashta prayeshva abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtike. By regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam, all that is troublesome within the heart is gradually reduced to practically nil, and loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental hymns, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Isn't that wonderful? I think it's simply wonderful. So, simply by hearing the messages of the Lord, by hearing about the Lord, by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, an attraction develops to glorifying, to worshipping, to revering, and then spreading the glories of the Lord. Because the more we hear, then we want to speak about it. So from Shravanam comes Kirtanam, glorifying the Lord. Because there's a natural tendency in all of us to glorify something, to admire something, to revere something, to offer worship to something. That is natural, that is innate in all of us. And if we do not worship God, you know what we're going to do? We're going to end up worshipping rock stars, music stars, film stars, TV stars, athlete stars, this star, that. And that's what people do. That's what people do. The stands are filled with pages and pages and pages on so-called celebrities and royalty, and people watch and they're watching and following hours and hours what these people are doing, and they're just fallible human beings who live, breathe, and die like us. But people spend their lives, some of them, collecting paraphernalia, and make memory books and things like that. My favorite is Princess Diana. My favorite is Queen of England, or whatever it is. And they accumulate pages and pages of memorabilia and make scrapbooks and, bequeath them to their grandchildren as though it's some great inheritance and things like that. People do all these things. So much stuff and nonsense about fallible creatures of this world is what we are going to revere, adore, worship, if we do not hear about God, Krishna. And such a sad waste of the human form of life. Such a sad waste. So Srila Prabhupada, insisted that at least the devotees of the Lord take this to heart very seriously and preach the glories of the Lord. And those of us who are very, very fortunate to be born in India, right from childhood, we hear Ramayana, we hear Mahabharata, we hear the glories of the Lord. Why? Because our grandparents, uncles, aunties, everybody, they speak about. And how did they hear? Because their mother and father kept glorifying the Lord, and therefore we hear songs, katha, drama, dance. I remember in childhood, our summer vacation was gone in preparing dances and dramas about Krishna. We didn't have TV, we didn't have all those things. So all the time it was just focused on either Ramayana or Mahabharata, Krishna, Rama. These were the things we heard. And so the messages go very deep, and we remember these things, and we understand that worshipping the Lord and glorifying the Lord is what everyone needs to hear. Otherwise, they will not awaken their loving relationship with God. This is very important to understand. And we are so fortunate because Srila Prabhupada has come and given us this matchless gift of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And Krishna means all attractive. He attracts everyone. So by sharing this knowledge, we will become more enlivened and enthusiastic ourselves. We will become more encouraged in our devotional service, because what happens to one who is preaching? He becomes very dear to Krishna. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, one who preaches my glories, there's no servant dearer to me than him. So we all want to become very dear to Krishna, isn't it? So whatever we know about Krishna, we should speak to others. Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh. And this is Lord Chaitanya's order. Whatever you know, whomever you meet, wherever you go, speak about Krishna. And then what happens? Krishna, who is there in the heart, cleanses the heart of all material desires, attachments, etc., etc. So beautiful. I want us to look at these 4 verses, key verses, just the translations, 1 to 16 to 20, if you don't mind, because they're really beautiful, because it describes step by step what happens when we start hearing those messages. Okay, we just read verse 16. I'll read it one more time. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous and properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam, by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. Haribo! Can't wait for that day. Text 20. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Thus, the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. So beautiful, isn't it? So hearing the message of the Lord, hearing about the Lord, knowing about the all-powerful personality of Godhead is so important. And then chanting his glories, and most important is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is the Yuga Dharma for this age of Kali. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Srila Prabhupada said, practically this whole Hare Krishna movement was begun by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Simply on the basis, on the faith of one pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, who had full faith in the chanting of the holy names, his whole Hare Krishna movement began. And you know what Srila Prabhupada said? He said, let me just read out to you about Srila Prabhupada in Lilamrita. This chanting should go on instead of meetings, resolutions, dissolutions, revolutions, and then no solution. There should be chanting. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he had produced this newspaper called Sajjan Toshini. So one curious person said, what is this, Maharaj? You're taking out a paper on spiritual topics every week. What is there so much? And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said, there is so much to speak about the spiritual world that we could produce a newspaper every minute. This is what he spoke about the spiritual world. There is so much mundane news, of this material world. There are newspapers, magazines, e-magazines, e-zines, e-newspapers, social media. The world is being bombarded with useless stuff. Weapons of mass distraction, as His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would say. So much distraction taking us away from the goal of life. The goal of the human form of life is to reawaken a loving connection with Krishna, which is already there in the heart. Pure love for Krishna is already there in the heart of all living entities. It just needs to be uncovered. And then the spirit soul is situated perfectly in his position of loving servitorship to Krishna, and he becomes completely happy, freed of the torment of material desires, material attachments, material wants, material entanglements, which just entangle the spirit soul in the conditioned way of life. So how important it is to hear. And what should we hear? Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the teachings of the great soul. This is what we need to hear. And this is what the world needs to hear. My dear spirit souls, do not for one moment hesitate to speak anything, whatever little bit you know about Krishna to others. I will relate one incident that will give you, I think, some courage. Go ahead and preach, because that's the great need of the hour. Srila Prabhupada, he was told about little Saraswati. She was only a little girl, maybe 3-4 years old, very early days of the movement. And at a Sunday feast, she was going around pulling on, everyone's sari and dhoti. And she said, do you know who is Krishna? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you should surrender unto him. And Prabhupada became so pleased. He said, she is the perfect preacher. Whatever she knows, she is speaking. Whatever she knows, she is speaking. She is the perfect preacher. So this is all that Srila Prabhupada wants. Whatever we know, we just speak about it. You don't have to fear and worry, oh, I'm not a great Pandit, I'm not a great scholar, I haven't done my Bhakti Shastri, I don't know so many scriptures. Doesn't matter. Whatever little bit you know, tell people about that. And people will be happy to hear. Don't feel shy, don't feel hesitant, don't be worried. People actually need to hear, want to hear, and they do not know whom to hear from. Therefore, the devotee of the Lord must take it upon himself or herself to give this knowledge to the thirsting people of this world who are so beset with so many trials and tribulations. We can see the world around, what terrible calamities are going on, and people are harassed by climate disaster, by government taxation, by rising crime rates, by poor housing, by food shortages, by lack of pure water, lack of good food. There's so many problems in this world. And how this has happened? Godlessness, bad leadership. And how all this is going to change unless the devotees start preaching about Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada said, this is the movement historians will note in history. This is the movement which saved the world in its darkest hour. And it's pretty dark out there already. We can see that. So therefore, devotees have to become very serious about spreading Krishna consciousness. Man, woman, child, young, old, educated, uneducated, white, black, brown, yellow, red, doesn't matter. Anyone who knows about Krishna must speak about Krishna. This is the urgent need of the hour, and we need many, many, many preachers. We need many preachers in our movement. Especially we need women preachers, because women, when they see another woman preacher, they become more enlivened. They feel more encouraged. That's natural. Supposing women see only a brahmachari or only a man or only GBC or only sannyasi preaching, they think, oh, only the men can become Krishna conscious. Women cannot become Krishna. Somehow we are not good enough. This feeling comes. Or if, only the sannyasis preach to the grihasthas end up thinking, oh, only the sannyasis can become pure, self-realized devotees. We cannot make it. So we need grihasthas to preach. We need matajis to preach. We need everyone to preach, It's not just the job of a few people, it's the job of everyone who has been given this great gift of Krishna consciousness by Srila Prabhupada, who gave his life, his blood, sweat, tears, his life went into the books that he wrote, went into the preaching mission that he established. Day and night, Srila Prabhupada sacrificed sleep, sacrificed his health to give us this knowledge. Srila Prabhupada said, my books are the law books for the next 10,000 years. So important. So people need to know, people need to become sane. They are mad right now after sense gratification and all useless things which never make anyone happy. And anyway, the quality of life has gone down so badly. Where's the sense gratification? Even if you want to eat the nicest food, it's all contaminated. Even if you want to go to the best tourist spot, it's also dirty and contaminated. Everything is a mess in Kali Yuga. There's no enjoyment here. People need to understand you are spirit soul. You're never going to be happy in the material energy. The only chance for happiness is for you to reconnect to who you are, a spiritual being meant to lovingly serve the supreme spiritual being, Krishna. So thank you all for listening so patiently. I think I could go on for another 1 hour, but there's a time limit. And so let's see, I'll take a quick look at the purport to make sure I have not missed out on any of the points that are, Monday news, Bhagavatam. Yes, and hearing from the right source. Hearing from the right source. That means the pure devotee of the Lord only should be heard, not from any other source. Because only one who comes in parampara will give you the spiritual knowledge as it is, without changing, without adding, without deleting. Srila Prabhupada said, whatever success I have had is because I did not change anything. I presented Krishna as he is. That's why Srila Prabhupada entitled his Bhagavad Gita as it is. Bhagavad Gita as it is. So this pure knowledge has come because of the mercy of the pure devotee. And Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita has changed the world. There were so many other people who went from India and preached all kinds of impersonalism and this thing and that thing and nonsense. But when Srila Prabhupada went and gave the pure message as it is, hundreds and thousands of people joined the Hare Krishna movement. We all know the history, such a marvelous story of how Prabhupada went to the US and under great difficulties, he started this Hare Krishna movement. And who joined? Hippies. Hippies joined. Why? Because they were enchanted by the pure message and the pure love that Srila Prabhupada emanated. His heart was just full of love for the conditioned fallen souls rotting here in this material world. And he wanted to uplift everyone. If you read the memories or hear some of the memory tapes, you will hear the young disciples in those days saying, we didn't know anything about philosophy, we didn't understand anything. We were simply attracted by Prabhupada's love for us. Srila Prabhupada's love captured their hearts, and that's how Srila Prabhupada changed their lives forever. And he has changed our lives forever, isn't it? Because of his pure love. Pure love for every soul comes only because he purely loves Krishna. And it is there, it is possible for all of us. We just have to uncover all the layers of dirt that is covering our pure love for Krishna. It is there in each and every soul, every living entity, actually. And in the human form of life, we can attain the highest perfection of life. So thank you all for listening so patiently. We will now open up for questions, comments.
Thank you so much, Sridevi, for such a powerful class, especially really hitting the point of hearing and increasing our hearing so that we become absorbed in thoughts of the Lord, and so that at the time of death, it comes automatically. And also the point of hearing from the right source. I think that is so important, because sometimes, especially in a spiritual community, we have this innocent understanding that everyone is here as the right source. We got to be sure that we're hearing from the right source, where, as they say, they walk their talk. That's so important, that they're walking their talk. So thank you for addressing that. That's a question, and I was going to open up for questions, and I'm glad that Pooja has a question in the chat. And she said, Hare Krishna, please define a pure devotee. Only one I know is our Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Pooja. Very nice question. And that is wonderful. Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee. That's the most fantastic thing. That's the greatest gift you have received. So who is the pure devotee? The pure devotee has no desire other than the desire of the Lord. His mission is the same as the mission of the Lord, to uplift the fallen conditional souls and help them to come back to their original constitutional position of loving servitorship to Krishna. He or she is a pure devotee because he has no personal agenda. His mission is the same as the mission of the Lord. Bring back the conditioned souls to his lotus feet. That's a pure devotee.
Does it mean, Mataji, does it mean people who are preaching and those who are into Krishna consciousness all the time? Is there how we distinguish them from those who are not pure devotees? Or
it's not that someone who is preaching or who is only doing a devotional service all the time is a pure devotee. Not always, because they may be on their way to becoming pure devotees. See, we all have mixed devotional service at the moment. We have material entanglements, we have material desires, we have material attachments. So we cannot claim to be pure devotees. We may be preaching, we may be engaged fully, but that's not the definition of the pure devotee. Definition of the pure devotee: he has no personal desires of his own. Can we claim we have no personal? We have. I want this, I want that. We are hankering, lamenting. That's not the stage of pure devotional service. Pure devotional service is above all this. It's transcendental and it is completely unmotivated, uninterrupted, pure devotional service. Ahaituki, apratihata. Let's pull up that verse, my dear Anasuya. This is a very nice question that Mataji has asked. Yayatma suprasiddhati. Ahaituki, what is the beginning?
Is that from Nectar of Instruction?
Yayatma suprasiddhati. Those are the last two lines. Ata Shri Krishna namadi na bhaved grayam indyai devan mukhehi jivadav. No, that is the other one. Yayatma suprasiddhati. Let me see. Ahaituki apratihata. That particular verse.
Let me Google it on Bhaktivedanta base, if I can do that. Yeah, that's one of my favorite verses that I always go blank to.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adoksha
Devotion.
apratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. Savai pumsam paro 1 to 6. Srimad Bhagavatam 1 to 6. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to complete by the self. This is pure devotional service. That means that it is unbroken. That means it is not stopped. We take pauses, no, let's see what's on TV, let's see what's on WhatsApp, let's see here, let's see this. A pure devotee is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord. His mind, body, spirit, heart, everything is completely engaged in the service of the Lord. He has no other thought, he has no other desire except service of the Lord at every moment. In other words, he is transcendental. He is not in the material modes of nature. He is above.
Mhm. Yeah. How can we distinguish this how can we distinguish such pure devotees? Suppose, for example, when we go to a ISKCON temple, or how do we know that he's a pure devotee? Unless somebody tells us that, unless it's by word of the mouth that somebody may say that he's a devotee, has given up. But is it which is the criteria, Mataji?
Sridevi, you're muted, Sridevi.
While it is really truly wonderful to find a pure devotee and hear from him, it doesn't mean we should not hear from those who are not yet pure devotees. Those who are preaching the message of the Lord, those who are sincerely following the process, those who are strictly following the four regulative principles, chanting their 16 rounds, who have strong sadhana, who are trying their level best to follow the orders of their Guru Dev. They may not be pure, they may not be 100% pure, but there is no harm in hearing from them because they are following the process correctly. Because we may not always get to hear only pure devotees. We may not always get to hear only pure devotees, right? It is ideal to hear. That is why every day we must hear lectures of Srila Prabhupada. Every day we must listen to at least one lecture of our Guru Dev or have a class with our Guru Dev, because he is the pure devotee of the Lord. He is the bona fide spiritual master. So those who are appointed as spiritual masters, we consider them pure devotees, because otherwise they wouldn't hold that post.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Nice question. Thank you.
Very, very nice questions. It's very important that, you know, we all also be reminded of that. Thank you so much, Mataji. Any other questions from devotees? Let me see. This one just came in okay. Srimati Mataji, in my opinion, you must take class daily. Very wonderful class. We covered 5 verses today, and she was jotting it down, Sridevi. Amazing. She said 2, 3, 20 plus 1, 2, 16 through 20. So you covered 5 in like 35 minutes. That's a marathon, Prabhu.
No, we didn't cover 6, 5 and 6. I just mentioned them. I must humbly disagree that we did only one verse, but we quoted other verses as a reference just to bolster the idea how important is hearing. So you
Amazing.
will be a devotee and you will be giving classes right, left, center. Don't you worry. You just stay in the process.
Time is just separating us from the service, right? Yeah, I remember those days. A question from Elinia. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hare Krishna. Accept my humble obeisances. Hare Krishna. I have one personal question for you, for all, for you, all people, all devotees. What is the essential of devotional service for you, for your personal spiritual street?
For me, the absolute essence, foundation is my chanting. I mean, that's just, you know, the only way I can begin the day is when I've chanted my rounds. My chanting takes top priority. That's the very first thing I do, and I finish all my rounds before 7 o'clock. My, you know, the first basic rounds. I chant extra rounds a little later, but my first 16, actually little more rounds are finished by 7 a.m. before my day begins actually. Because unless I do that, I cannot function actually. I cannot, really do well in my spiritual life or even material life. I cannot do my seva, I'm just a mess basically. Most of the time I'm a mess. And if I don't chant my rounds, I'm a bigger mess. Let's put it that way. So just to, keep my sanity, I have to chant my rounds first thing in the morning. That's the essence of my spiritual practice.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Very
The other
nice question. Very nice question.
Hare
And
Krishna.
Anasuya, feel free to jump in and answer also because she's asking all of us. She wants to know. So any thoughts you have? Then
I agree with you, Sridevi. Actually, even for me, if I have it, and because I work full time, I cannot put all my rounds in the morning, but I definitely put 50% of it in the morning. And I really try to do at least 8 rounds and hear class. Like if I just do rounds and don't hear class, I can see my day goes helter-skelter, really. And I see that sometimes on the weekends, especially because Saturday is when I do grocery shopping for my house and for the temple. I plan for the temple stuff. And I've also learned from my personal experiences. And I've told this to devotees many times, and sometimes it kind of sounds scary, but it's the honest truth that there was a period in my time, I think many years after my spiritual master left the planet. This was, he left in 2005. And I think around 2008, 2009, I did not have an assigned, dedicated service. And it was about, I want to say about 7 years. And let me tell you, it was like committing suicide for me. It was suicidal. And I was busy with my grihastha life, working full time, chanting rounds, but it wasn't fruitful, for me. Yes, I was chanting my rounds. Yes, I was taking care of my family. Yes, I was doing deity worship at home. Yes, I was doing everything, but there wasn't more than that. It was just very, what's the word? Very robotic, like the same old thing every single boring day. So when I didn't have devotional service, I could really see myself like I was like jumping the Ganga River to kill myself. I swear to God, it was very bad. It was very suicidal. And I always prayed, give me service. Krishna's mercy, I got service. And I always tell devotees, yes, we can chant the best rounds. Yes, we can read the scriptures every day. But if we don't do some devotional service, it becomes dry, because whatever we're reading has to be applied, has to be executed. And for me also, because I used to be a temple devotee for 10 years. So even not having a temple, in service was simply suicidal. I'm so glad the good Lord saved me from committing suicide. It was scary.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And without devotional service, without some plugging in and doing some seva to the Lord, to the pure devotee, to, following his instructions to do something, we are not able to really understand the philosophy, apply, get realizations. Vigyan, we may have gyan, but vigyan will not come until we apply the knowledge that we have received practically in devotional service. Very, very important point. We should be plugged into some devotional service and under the guidance of, our mentors or temple president or the spiritual master that we are doing, even on a daily basis, even a little bit. And that will be, like, as you said, a lifeline to save us. Beautiful.
Hare Krishna.
Is that
Thank you very
helpful?
much.
Is that helpful? It is? Okay, good. Thank you for
Yes.
allowing us. Good.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, Mother Puja.
Yes, can I ask another question?
Please, Mother, please.
Yeah, the thing is, mine is, I was into Krishna consciousness steady Then last year, a couple of years ago, I reached a very nice steady level. But the problem with me is that I get huge breaks in my life. One of the breaks is health related, and these are not minor health related. These are scary health related. Coming up to the big C levels, one problem after another, you get occupied, hospital visits, scans, and then something just gets out of the way. I'm going through that phase at the moment. Fortunately, it's nothing nasty at the moment, but I'm trying to get back into the rhythm, and I've been told it's going to take nearly 6 months before I bounce on to my normal self. So in the last 3 months, everything has gone out of the window. Before I was doing 16 rounds regularly, not by 6, 7 p.m., but by about 10, by 11. But I was doing it. But now, yesterday I did only 3 because my problem is tiredness and not able to feel that much motivated because of what I'm going through at the moment. I'm not depressed or anything, but it's just the health issues that sometimes overtakes. I think that this is all material, but at times I can't come out of it.
You know, it is so important for us to focus on health. Srila Prabhupada said, health first, then sadhana, then service, in that order. So we have to focus on health just to stay alive and to get through whatever we need to do for the day. So if your whole time energy is going in just staying alive and taking care of your health, that's the most important thing. Srila Prabhupada said 3 things must be attended to on an emergency basis: fire, deaths, and disease.
Okay.
So we must take care to get our health back on track. And as much as possible, we can also try to remember Krishna, glorify Krishna, hear about Krishna, chant whatever rounds we can, keep the, jukebox playing all the time, listen to japa tape, listen to lectures. Even if we have health problems, even if you are lying in bed, we can constantly hear. We can constantly watch the tapes of Srila Prabhupada's disciple memory tape. There's so much to watch on Hare Krishna TV. You can hear the kirtan. So don't think devotional service is just one thing. It is multi-dimensional. You can do so many things. Even if you are bedridden, you can constantly hear. Parikshit Maharaj attained perfection simply by hearing. He just sat tight and he heard. Tapes, listen to lectures, watch beautiful, tapes of Srila Prabhupada or his pure devotees, listen to kirtans. If you feel like, if all you can do is just sit down, write a poem about Krishna, write letters to Krishna, open your heart to Krishna. Do whatever your heart will tell you to do for Krishna, do that. Because you are a unique soul and you have a unique relationship with Krishna. Nobody else can push you, force you, tell you, do this, do that. It will come from the heart. Your heart will tell you what to do.
Yeah.
If you like to cook something nice for Krishna, that's devotional service.
Yeah.
If you like something nice and then give your neighbor that prasadam, that's super devotional service. You're actually giving Krishna. So don't feel that, oh, I'm not able to go and be a big book distributor. I'm not able to go to the temple and make many garlands. Doesn't matter. Whatever you can do at the present level of health, Krishna is happy to accept it. What is important is love and devotion. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati. Krishna is tasting the love. It is not how many garlands, how many preparations, making big show. He wants to see how much love you have put into that thing. That is all that he is wanting. He wants to taste your love. Yeah. And bring you through all this to bring out more and more love from your heart.
Yeah.
I'm going to hear Teresa. She said something which has stayed with me. She said, we can do no great things. We can do no great things. She's saying this, and you know what a powerful figure she was. But we can do many, many small things with great love.
Ah, excellent. Yes, that's very good. Yes, that's what. Yeah, I remember to give him at least prasadams, whatever I do, without garlic onion in it. I mean, I remembered that. That's what I do always. Now, what you
Yes.
have told me, I think it's make a lot of sense. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Welcome. All the best. Hare
Oh, thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Mother Puja, I can definitely relate to your situation because my husband is going through that. He's going through, he's 70, going through a lot of health challenges. And every day he tells me, I just want the pain to go so I can do service. So I can completely relate to your situation.
Mm.
But just like Mother Sridevi said, that what my husband does, he's going through some really, purifying health challenges. That what he does, he hears proper memories videos.
Mm.
And then he would hear lectures by different sannyasis that gives him, learning, And then he just started listening to Amala Bhakta Swami's narration of Bhagavatam on YouTube. So he hears different classes. So at least he's trying to increase the hearing while lying down with pain, So that's also, and then sometimes, like Mother Sridevi was saying, whatever little you can do, even if you cook something small and give it once a month, is something. I always like to go with this motto: something better than nothing.
Yeah.
But health always comes first, Mother. Health always, because we have to get the health to be able to do more. So health always comes first. Yes.
Yeah. The thing is, I was feeling guilty that there are lots of
Yeah.
Bhagavatam classes I'm not able to attend
Yeah.
because I need to lie down. I need something to do else in the
Yes.
afternoon, lie down, or at least
Yes.
1.5 hours, 2 hours. That's what I have become now. And
Yeah.
hence I cannot attend the classes. So that's what,
Right.
but your talk and Mataji's talk has encouraged me that
Nice.
that's not the only thing. Looking after yourself and do anything you can do, increase the love for Krishna is important.
Yes.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna,
Tell you
Mataji.
one
Thank
more thing,
you.
Pooja. I'll tell you one more thing which will really enliven you and make you very enthusiastic. But are you ready to hear it?
Yes, go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yes, I mean, of course.
Okay. Even if you're lying in bed, you can hold the cell phone to your ear and you can call somebody you love or you know and say, look, this is what I read about Krishna today. Would you like to hear it? And go down your phone list and tell everybody some new thing you read about Krishna or some new thing you read about Srila Prabhupada. Just sharing Krishna consciousness with others, even if you're lying down, even if you're sitting back in your armchair, holding the phone and talking to people, will enliven you tremendously, because speaking about Krishna to others is very enlivening.
Yes, I try to do that to tell my sisters. I do that. If I heard
Very
something,
good.
I tell them this is what it is. Only yesterday, I was telling my sister that, there are Atma and Paramatma in our body, and she didn't know it. So I try to
Right.
explain a little bit of that. So that's
Very good.
yes, I'm just something that I'm trying to do. But I think I should do a little bit more than what I'm doing at the moment.
Excellent. That's the key. Keep trying to do just a little bit more. We are all like ants, serving in the mission of the Lord. We are just little ants, but we can all try to do just a little bit more and a little bit better every day.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Very good.
Very bold.
Very nice questions. Beautiful discussions, actually. Any other questions from devotees? Yes, Kusum, go ahead. You unmuted yourself, so I'm assuming that you want to say something. Probably she's logging on. Any other questions from devotees? Any other thought that's coming to your mind? Any reflection that, and even if you want to share reflection, that always helps, because sometimes we have a reflection, we have a realization, and we keep it. But if we share it, we all can learn from each other. I always like to, say that, because something that may hurt, that may have come to your mind, I may have thought about, like Sridevi just said a wonderful point, just go down the list. I never thought about that. So that's a very nice, reflection. Any thoughts? One question I have, Sridevi, is thank you for such a wonderful class. I think hearing is, I was listening to a lecture many months ago by Srila Prabhupada, where he says out of the 9 devotional process, hearing is the first and the foremost. because we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And we increase the wrong one and then decrease the the more permanent one, you know. So I was just thinking, you know, in this age of Kali Yuga, you know, with so much bombardment, especially with so many distractions, right? How can we really develop the understanding how important hearing is? Especially when we're all like scattered, you know?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. This is actually, that is why we need sadhu sangha. That is why we need association of devotees, because only in the association of devotees, we start understanding the importance of spiritual life. We start understanding the importance of what we are doing. Otherwise, it is so easy to get swayed by the things of this world. And Maya picks us off very easily, you know, when we are out there by ourselves, you know, and that is why we need to come together like this. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. In the association of the devotees, our natural love for hearing about Krishna is awakened. We get enlivened, we get enthused, and we relish, we take great delight in talking about Krishna with one another. That verse is there, 10:9, Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Madchita madgat prana, 10:9 of Bhagavad Gita. You can pull that up. Madchita madgat prana, bodayantascha parasparam, kadayantascha mam nityam, tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss by always conversing about me and enlightening one another about me. So you see, it's in the association of devotees that we get to hear and we get to talk about Krishna, then we get to hear some more, we get to talk about Krishna. And if we are actually hearing very nicely these lectures, these classes, we will get realizations or we will get questions to clarify something. So that is why the hearing process is so important, because it purifies the mind, clarifies our doubts, makes us become fixed in our conviction, in our faith, in our devotional service practices, and gives us strength when the difficulties come, because we are hearing from the great souls how to overcome trials and tribulations, what is to be done, what is to be not done, what is favorable, what is not favorable. Everything happens in the association of devotees through hearing. So this is very important.
Everything boils down to sadhu sangha, right? It's like so amazing. It's like our fax line. I was talking to, you know, I was talking to one devotee, a newcomer. He's been coming for a few months now, and he's such an introvert that sometimes when he has doubts coming up in his mind, the first thing he does is he leaves the devotee association. So the first time he left the devotee association, he ended up in the hospital. And he called my husband a few months ago, 6 months ago, and he says, my God, I left the devotees and the Lord put me in the hospital. He says, and he had bronchitis, really bad bronchitis, like he was in ICU, actually, he said. He came out. Then he was coming to the temple. And again, after a few months, he left the devotee association for like 2 months. So finally, he texted me yesterday and he says, Mataji, Krishna, I don't know if Krishna is trying to teach me something, but whenever I leave the devotee association, I end up in the hospital. And I was like, you've done it twice, I said, don't strike the third one, I said, you better come back. But that is devotee association. I said, Krishna's just telling you that devotee association is your lifeline. You know, because he ended up in the hospital twice, Sridevi. I mean, that is scary.
It's a very, such a dangerous world out there, and third time he might not come out alive.
Exactly.
Right. He might not even.
Yeah. So I said.
Just can't afford to. Yeah.
Yep.
Very good that you said this is our lifeline.
It is our lifeline, you know, because it's them that's going to be at our dying bedside, you know, when we need them. The devotees.
It's so important what you said, because right now His Grace Sahadev Prabhu is leaving his body in the holy dham of Mayapur. Wow. And he's a devotee surrounded by Kirtan. His focus and attention is fully on the Lord and Srila Prabhupada. And that is all happening because of Sadhu Sangha. Imagine being alone in some Karmi hospital somewhere, no devotees, no Prabhupada Japa tape, no association, no kirtan. Oh my God, it's like,
Very scary, very scary. I know.
very scary.
Yes. Yes, Srimati, please go ahead with your question.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. I'll go to share Prabhupada. It's always pleasure to see you both together on the same Mataji and Sridevi Mataji. I love this combination.
Please accept my humble obeisances, my dear Srimati. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev, and all glories to all of you wonderful devotees, because what would two of us do without you all? We'd just be complaining about each other's health, each other, I think.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for such a wonderful class. As usual, you lighten up all the day, and it's going on like that. The whole Zoom will lighten up. So my question is, Mataji, we know that everyone, whoever speaks Krishna Katha, we have to hear them. But usually devotees have taste, like they listen to only a particular speaker or only some particular speakers, and they choose like that. So is it good to do that? Or usually, I don't think it's good, but I just want to clarify from you both, yourself and Anse Mataji.
Well, whoever speaks about Krishna we should hear is not the complete statement I made. We should hear from those who are strictly following the process.
Okay.
People will speak about Krishna and they'll speak their mental speculation also, and their own masala they will throw in, and also we should be very careful, even in devotee circles, to hear from those who had fixed in their sadhana, in their devotional service, in their practice of Krishna consciousness, because we may otherwise be hearing, their mixture. So it is not that we should just listen to everything. We should be discriminatory. That's also very important. One must use one's intelligence, because remember, there are Kali Chelas in our movement. Very important, very, very important to understand this. So we must be very careful to whom we are giving our ear. Only hear from those who are coming in the disciplic succession, who are bona fide, who have been deputed by their spiritual masters to speak, this is their service, and just be very careful, be played very safe. So that's what I want to caution you, Srimati. And there's no problem if you have a favorite speaker, you want to listen to, say Chaitanya Chandra, or you want to listen to Gaur Gopal, or you want to listen to Gauraga Darshan. They're all bona fide and approved speakers. They have been empowered by their Guru Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj. So no harm in speaking in listening, but you must be very sure that they are bona fide. That's all.
That's a very good point, Srimati, because it boils down to hearing from the right source, which we have been told in our scriptures, hearing from the right source. Now, there's a flip side to it, that sometimes some devotees think that I am more elevated than you, so I don't have to hear from you. Like you use that term, we have that also in the movement. When we have that kind of a consciousness that, oh, I know more than you, so I don't need to hear from you. So I asked the same question from Balabhadra Prabhu, and a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON Atlanta. And I said, I said, I've come across situations where there are devotees that have this mentality that, oh, I know more than you. I've heard this. I don't need to hear this again. It's the same old thing. He says, when we have that kind of a mentality, that means our chanting is not very good, is what he said. So he says, yes, we like what Sridevi said, we have to hear from the right source, because, and tell someone who's walking the talk, as Sridevi said, not just anyone. But at the same time, we shouldn't have the mood that, I've heard this, I know more than you, because believe me, I've seen it and I still see it till today. There are people like that. You're saying the same thing that I know, whatever. it's also a disrespect. Then we'll think, and what happens is then our minds becomes very offensive. Is because our chanting is not good. So we have to balance both. Hearing from the right source, proper association, proper speaker, bona fide speakers, as Sridevi said, and at the same time, we should be careful of our mind that we don't start saying, oh, you know, whatever, because that exists, and I have come across that. Yeah.
Good point, Anasia. Good point that we should always be respectful to everyone, even a neophyte devotee wanting to genuinely share something he or she has read. You know, we should be humble enough and happy actually to hear the transcendental message, whether it's coming from a neophyte, whether it's coming from you know, a kid, anybody who's speaking, you know, the message of the Lord. We should be ready to hear. Because Krishna speaks through so many people in so many ways. We should
Absolutely. In fact, Sridevi, when you're mentioning about the kid, I was remembering a short pastime that happened at my wedding, you know, 30 years ago. During the prasadam reception time, my senior, you know, Mother Ladini, you know Ladini, remember Ladini? Yes. My senior god sister's daughter, she was about 2 years old. During the prasadam time, when everybody was eating, she went up to the mic, she to the stage, she took the mic and she gave a 5-minute class. And I can never forget it till today. She's 30-something years old now. I can never forget that day. She says, we are Krishna devotees and we follow the 4 principles and we do not eat meat and we only eat Krishna prasadam. And I was like, whoa, kid, you are really teaching me something. Now, someone would say, what is this kid talking about? Right? All bakwas, all nonsense, right? But no. So, but she was 2 years old. And I was like, girl, you're a preacher, you know? But yeah, so we have to be, like Sridevi said, sometimes the kids can become our teachers. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. One more clarification I need, like in one lecture I heard that these neophytes, they come and they want Vyasasana so soon. They don't know the struggles of devotional service. They don't grew up in devotional service, but they want all these fancy things, like they first want to get on to the Vyasasana and talk and speak about Krishna. So like these comments I heard in one lecture. So I just want to know, like, so what is the actual qualification, like, to get onto the Vyasasana? Like, so we have seen some years in ISKCON and we have followed, as Mataji said, we are strictly in our sadhana. So all these things are the prerequisites, right, Mataji? So we need not, so you see, like a neophyte like me, I got Guru Maharaj's mercy through some services, but I should not feel that I am a very most senior devotee, or I should not jump into things which I am not capable of doing. So how to figure it out, Mataji? So I heard these statements in some lectures, so I was thinking from then. So I want the clarification, Mataji.
See, somebody has to empower you or designate you as speaker. We never go ahead and push ourselves and say, I want to be speaker, I want to be speaker. That is not Vaishnava etiquette. You must always be invited to speak, and then only you can speak. Even if you're a highly qualified speaker, if you are not invited to speak, you should just keep quiet. So because you have been empowered, designated by Guru Maharaj to give a lecture, give lecture, no problem. In my case, I began my preaching because my temple president, you know, gave me that service very early in the beginning of my Krishna consciousness. He wrote a note to me and said, please take up one day in the week for giving class. That's how, you know, and of course, Guru Maharaj also blessed me saying, yes, you do this service. And that's how I began. So somebody has to designate you, empower you, then there is no problem, you can speak. Go right ahead. Dear devotees, this is the very last question because 6:45, I'm actually supposed to start another call. I'm speaking on Bhagavad Gita in Hindi, and this was so enlivening. I didn't want to cut off anyone's question, but please forgive me. Now I have to leave.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much for clarity.
Thank you so much, Sridevi. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. And Srimati, just to, I will address another point, if you don't mind, Sridevi, since you have to hop off.
Okay.
I started preaching, Srimati, to be honest with you, 23 years after being in devotional service. And because one is, we have to be purified. You know, we have to be purified, we have to be empowered. For me, I had to do a lot of service to, not that I'm done, I'm still being, you know, purified like crazy, but service always purifies us, it always empowers us. And once we get our spiritual master's blessing, we can do anything, you know. And so it's, once the guru says do, that means he has empowered you, you know. And at the same time, we have to perform the service with such humility. One thing that I have learned from Vishnugada Prabhu, who's a proper disciple in ISKCON Philadelphia, it's so inspiring. He is my senior, of course. He's my uncle, who is my guru's brother, and he is 70 years old almost. But when he comes and gives class at our temple, he will always say, I'm asking permission to give class before seniors in service and seniors in age. And I was like, Krishna Chaitanya, I said, Prabhu, you're making me go down the ground here like a worm. But that shows humility, you know? So it's very important. Like, I know when I have seniors before me, when I give class, I always ask their permission first, you know, and then start the class, because we have to, we've gotten our guru's empowerment and blessings. And then on the other hand, we are taking permission from the seniors. And then you're fully covered, you know. But it's not about, okay, because I got initiated, so I take the Vyasasana. No, it has to come from the parampara, and which was given to you by your spiritual master. And that's how it works.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're in good shape.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to thank all the devotees for such a wonderful class. Amazing questions, such nice discussion, and wonderful topics and points by Sridevi. And it's so important that we try to increase our hearing. We thank you all for joining us. Vanchakraptibhyascha, Kripasindhabeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki. His Holiness Chandramali Swami ki.
Jai.
Have a wonderful day, evening, night, everything. Haribol.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.